Good morning, everybody. Now I'm up before noon and ready to share my thoughts. Now today, I got up and it's like everything turned white outside. It's been kind of a snowless snow season where last year it was like really deep old snow, and I got a really strong back with all the shoveling I had to do, and I just thought I would share this, what I get to see out my window. It's the view of my window. I don't know if you could see my hanging there. Thank you for that. My friend Chris gave this to me and Rosie, and I wanted to point these colors out to you because I feel like people don't understand exactly what the rainbow's about. So that may come up. And I want to show you right out the door. Oh my goodness, there's something right in my way. The work that I've got cut out for me. This ugly window's right in the way. I don't know if you can see that good enough. So I don't know. I mean, the snowflakes have to be awfully big if you can see them on camera here. It's not that bad. So I'm getting ready to go outside and do something about that snow. And reason for that, I don't want people walking on it and packing it down, because then you can't get rid of it and it turns into ice and everything. Check this out. Fluffy Tail got in. Fluffy Tail, how'd you get in? I opened the door and Fluffy Tail got in. That's my neighbor's cat. He's a big, soft, fluffy tail, and you know, I really appreciate him stopping in. Remember I was saying I have no one to hug, no one to honk to, but I've got the neighbor's cat. His name is Geode. Now he wants out. You know how cats are. They're like, let me in, let me in. Let me out, let me out. That's when you got a spoiled cat. Check that out. My neighbor's cat is so spoiled, he even expects me to let him in and out as much as he wants. Ha, what a guy. Can't believe him. You know, funny thing about Geode is he reminds me just a little bit of Ciro. Now, I don't remember Ciro's personality exactly, except that he was just, you know, such a big gray fluffy tail. Anyways, it just happens to be a Sunday morning and I'm about to give my sermon because, of course, I want to do another video talking about my understanding of spiritual stuff. And when I say understanding, I mean sort of a loose and relaxed set of ideas about what's going on. And I was talking earlier about the fact that we are part of a living universe and we're just simply surviving nature. And the reason we are surviving nature is because of our intentions to do so. It comes from the will, right? So, and when we look at it at the physical level, it's really clear and obvious that we are doing things to survive and it's working. And we keep getting smarter and smarter, and that's why I'm indoors with this really nice heater instead of outside, you know, just like, you know, either that or I'd grow fur or something. So the other animals, like that cat, he doesn't need any clothes. He just went back outside with no shoes or anything. Oh my goodness, he might catch a cold. Be careful, Fluffy Tail, you might catch a cold out there. I'm gonna lock him up. What a sneaky, weaselly cat. I can't believe he did that. Anyway, so surviving nature is pretty obvious, and something we forget about is that we are fundamentally animals, and that's why, you know, maybe we're ashamed of the fact that we need to do stuff like have sex, or people are ashamed to be an animal because, you know, there's another thing I always think that similarly to sex is fighting, right? We have a natural drive to fight, and so that's okay as long as it's done in an appropriate place. Otherwise, we have a problem. So anyways, that's something I was going to talk about too in martial arts, is like what makes us need to go to martial arts training. Well, it's good therapy for us because there's that animal part of us that needs to fight. Just like I was saying, you know, maybe you should have a good sex partner, a sex life. Good therapy for you because you're an animal and you need to use that part of yourself. So you got to remember that we're animals, and what I'm going to really talk about is the physical survival aspect. That's why we fight. Fighting is natural to us. You know, nobody, you know, had martial arts. The animals don't get martial arts and they know how to fight. You know, we've always known how to fight, and that's all part of survival. So if we want to survive, we have to actually make a good effort. You have to put up a good fight if you want to survive out here in nature. And so, so one, you're surviving other animals attacking you or other people attacking you on the physical level. But then the other thing it's part of us that is a predator, and since humans are meat eaters, we've had to learn how to kill other animals and live with it. You know, he just killed the cute fuzzy pet. He loved his family and he liked to be petted and all this stuff. And so there's a part of us that's just an animal. And so you see on a physical level, where we've mastered survival, like we don't have to hunt if we don't want to. I could just go to the grocery store. I don't need to have a husband if I don't want to, because I can go make my own money. And all this type of thing is changing. Like our sense of survival is changing so much. But anyways, we get that we need to survive. It's not something that just happens all by itself. You can't just be a lazy bones and expect to get anything from it, right? So the same thing. So I was talking about, we have the three major spheres, or the three major components, and so I think the central component to our body, you know, is down here near our groin and stuff, like our center, and it seems to just tie in with how we function. You know, we reproduce down here and this type of thing, so it all ties in where, you know, we've got that figured out. But I think what's really confusing is dealing with spiritual stuff, or things to the understanding the difference between the soul and the spirit, or what those even are. And so I think I'm going to talk about those simultaneous, because what's happening is we're also trying to survive as souls. So who knows, maybe there's a chance that a soul can face its death if it doesn't take action to survive. And so that's what spiritual survival really is. It's all this stuff we're doing to survive as a soul. And so, like, even if we've got it good in our body, you know, maybe we've got the money, we've got the body, but the thing that can defeat us are the things that affect us on a psychological level, or on the level of a soul. And so that again comes to the breakdown of the universe on the grander scale. I want to paint a picture where at the center of this living system, you know, we have these three things. The energy is spread throughout the universe, but it might be concentrated at the center, where it might be like a heart, you know. But as you get further away from that center, where it's just pure light, and you're getting closer to outer space and further out into the depths, into the abyss, that's where that energy gets thinner. And the less energy we have, the more dangerous it is for us. And you can think of it how it is here on Earth, how it's relative to the amount of sunlight we're getting. Like, it probably wouldn't be a good idea for me to go outside naked and expect not to freeze to death, right? I would be better off if I was living near the equator, if I'm somebody that just wants to go out in maybe just my bikini and I don't care to put on much other clothes. Or, you know, some people migrate and move around just based on how much sunlight we're getting. So we know that if we go someplace where we're not getting enough sunlight, we could freeze to death. As simple as that. And in a way, that's kind of what's happening in the universe and with physical matter. It's like, even scientists have the concept that started out with, you know, it sounds like it was just stars at first. It seems like there's just nothing but, like, the first matter would be gas. And then as matter continued to develop, it became more and more solid, because the atoms all get bigger and bigger. And the bigger the atoms get, the heavier it becomes, and then the more dense it becomes. So even scientists and religionists, I think they have the same concept of everything starting out from energy and developing from lighter stages to heavier stages. And so I think the further we get out from the universal center or the galactic center, so if we get too far out from it, then we start to experience more density, because when we're out there in outer space, it's cooling us off, and that's allowing things to crystallize. So I think what we're experiencing is almost like we're on the surface. You know, we're experiencing the surface aspect, or more to the exterior of all of living reality. And so that's where the idea comes that only a small portion of all conscious life is happening in the physical domain, where the majority of it's happening on a higher, a more plasmic level. And that just might be because as we get closer to the galactic center, we're getting more support and nourishment out of the type of light energy that is being distributed or gathered. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but that's what I'm kind of seeing there, is that, okay, so part of the reason where we're at, so let's say this is the spectrum from fullness to emptiness. Like, this is like the center of the living universe. And as you go out to the edge, you know, maybe there's not really a solid edge to it, but it might just continue until you have the void, you know. So I'm not sure if there's a dividing line exactly, but I kind of feel like what's happening is that we're part of, like, like the surface, you know, that we are experiencing physical reality because we're kind of at the surface, and that we're part of the physical structure of the living universe. It's almost like the framework, really, and nothing more. And that there's just so much else that actually fills it in between all the points. So something like that, like all these points are being spread out, and then it just all gets filled in eventually, and that might be the process of creation. And that's why you're a point of consciousness being kind of sprinkled out there into the galaxy, and then we all get out here and then we start weaving that cosmic energy, and then we help contribute to that structural development ourselves by being part of the construction project that's going on. So anyways, we're in kind of a dangerous location for the energy supply that we're getting, and that's where on one hand we have to work a little harder to survive nature at the physical level probably than we would if we were living on a better planet closer to the middle. Now on the spiritual level, we have a similar problem too because of the amount of spiritual light we're getting. So there's two basic things we might respond to on a subconscious level, and that's what we call heaven, and let me see, I'm going to call it the calling of the void, the calling of heaven, the calling of the void, whether these exist or not. The ideology is that, you know, the living universe seems to have a heart to it or a mind to it. And you want to act on the behalf of that, then you're going to do stuff that helps save people's life. You're going to do stuff to, you know, be helpful. And we're going to try to save the, whatever. We want to save somebody's life. We want to stop, you know, suffering, all these type of things. We're going to answer on the calling of heaven and do something that's pretty good. But when we answer to the calling of the void, that's when we do something that's not really good. So good and bad is relative to whether or not we want to exist any longer. So, you know, something that's good for us is going to help us live. Something that's bad for us is going to shut us down or could be deadly to us, right? So, you know, so that's what you might, you know, because those words are relatively good. Like we might say good and bad music. It's not going to kill you to have to listen to Eminem. Come on, you know. No, just kidding. I don't want anyone to throw things at me for saying that, but good and bad are relative to what you want, and if you're part of a living universe and you want to survive, then it would probably be a bad idea to do such and such and this and that, and you don't want to do anything that pinches that flow of spirit energy. So, so getting on spirit law is also sort of another topic that ties in with this, you know, so understanding what that means, you know, so I think that's what the story of Jesus has a lot to do with, because I feel like, you know, I mentioned before, I feel that I've been visited by what we call God, what we call Jesus, and we had a big talk about what spirit law means. And it seems to be very simple, but again, very difficult to achieve, which is a lot of times how it works. It's super simple because spirit law, it's really the same thing as anarchy. It's where there should be no slave, there should be no master. People should be able to just know what's right, because you just know it in your heart. So kind of sensing off the spirit, you know, because you know, a lot of the laws and ideas we have about how we treat each other, what's right and wrong, have absolutely nothing to do with what's going on in nature and science. It's like, you know, for me to think, you know, it's a nice thing to, you know, give somebody a gift, even if it's not Christmas. I see somebody who needed something, and I don't even expect anything back for it, you know, this type of thinking. So that's what Christmas does for us every year, right? It brings us back to the, you know, the more you give, the more you get. Learn to be a giving person. So that way, you know, if everyone thought that way, you would never go without, you know, because if there's some people like, well, I'm afraid that if I give too much, then I'll run empty, so I'm just going to start taking. And then so other people start thinking, you know, I see what he's saying. It seems like, you know, so that's when you live in a fearful way, right? So you're afraid you're not going to receive, so you start to take. I know how that feels, so I think I've done that in some instances. And then, but, you know, like if I work for tips, right? So I love to give tips too, you know. I like to think that, you know, if I give other people tip money, maybe then it'll increase my luck. Who knows? I mean, I'm part of a culture now that, you know, people buy things and they reward their server if they like the connection. So I make a living, hopefully using my charm and personality, even though most of the tips are predetermined. Anyways, that's what I'm talking about, is applying spirit law has to do with making a positive connection with the people around us, like on a simple, super logical basis. Like if I could know who my neighbor is in the front house, know who my neighbor is on either side, and behind me, and that way, if I ever need them for anything, I can come knock on their door, and they're not going to be like, whoa, who's this weirdo at my door? So we don't want to be afraid of each other. We want to know, like, okay, Jody's cool. If you ever need anything, you can knock on her door. She's not going to open the door and scream in your face, you know? So you don't want to be afraid of your neighbor. And so any kind of relationship like that where you're putting yourself on the other side of the wall, there's a lot of fear-based ideas that are going to come between you, and a lot of times those probably aren't even true. So this is where, you know, it affects our basic psychology every day. So, you know, because we're out in that part of the galaxy or the universe where we're being affected by the void, I think what's happening is that some of the conscious beings, like either a human being or if they're a being in the spirit realm, however that may work, you know, this might explain angels and demons. Okay, again, back to, are they responding to the calling of heaven, or are they responding to the calling of the void? That's where, I don't know, that's when you're just like, I'm the cute kitty killer. You ever see that movie, American Psycho? I think that's a classic case. It's as if he was responding to the calling of the void. I mean, it just really broke my heart when he saw that kitty. I don't know if he was by the ATM, and he's like, come here, let me pet you, and he just kills it. Like, what the fuck? Are you crazy? You know, so that man was answering to the calling of the void, you know, so it's not so much like you would say, oh, the devil made him do it. It's more like, you know, that energy from the void, you know, it's a destructive one. It just eats up, and, you know, it's not like it's trying to kill, it just does. And so maybe that seeps into our consciousness, and it brings us down, 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 down. And so the spirit world is, you know, been in a process. So we're supposed to be on a process of ascension, you know. So as we're coming through the galaxy, through like ages and ages, we ascend just on the physical level because of the nourishment we're providing, being provided from the galactic energies or whatever. But at the same time, you know, there should be a conscious effort to ascend, and so that's where the battle is at. So like, so just as we're battling to survive the elements in nature, we're also surviving to battle some of the things that other souls are doing to us, and because they're answering to the wrong calling, right? So some of these souls are answering to the wrong calling. And sometimes it's just a little bit at a time. Like, you're mostly on the good side, but every once in a while we slip. And so I don't know. I guess if you're evil, it's like because you just let that whole thing override you. Maybe you just become to the point where you just don't care anymore, and you'll be happy to destroy anybody's life or anything that gets in your path. So it may be some people, they just get to where they're so full of that dark side. You know, it's like Star Wars talks a little bit about the dark side, and you know, versus the galactic federation. I forget how they call it, but you know, they have the right idea, because you know, when they were trying to get Anakin to join the dark side, it's just like, come to the dark side, you'll enjoy all the power. So actually seems very powerful to be able to just destroy something. You're like, wow, you know, just think I could just take this pumpkin and smash it, you know, isn't that so much power? But like that thing they do with kids, and I never had to do this, is they give the kids an egg and tell them they got to keep this egg from getting broken. So it's like learning how to take care of a baby or something. It's so much harder to take care of that egg than it is to let it get smashed. So to be working with the calling of heaven, you're just basically somebody that's just, you know, you're like you're part of the crew trying to help keep everything going, you know. So we're like a management team trying to keep the universe twisting and turning and keep it going. So that's really all it is, you know. And so when I say choose life, it's just really I'm not talking about abortion and stuff like that. I'm talking more about like, that way you're answering to the calling of heaven, and that way you'll make all good decisions when you have to. When you have no book or no guidance, that's when you make good decisions. Being on spirit law is to do with knowing from the eyes of the heart. Sometimes we don't have the literature. Sometimes we don't have a person of authority. And so if everyone could function from that way, you know, because it has to do with, you know, kind of developing a synapses, you know, through the earth, through the sun, through the galactic center, to the universal center. So what we're really achieving is developing a synapses, just like we do in our brain, you know, as we keep exercising our brain. I think leading scientists now are starting to think, you know, the universe works a little bit like a brain, and it's developing synapses just the same way we do when we use our brain to think, imagine, wonder, question, plan, learn, especially learning. That's a big one. Learning is a big one. So what we want to do is develop that synapses. That way we can respond, and that's what really helps us survive. So like as a martial artist, I want that too. I want to be to where like, okay, I'm in the dark, I don't know what I'm doing, and like I really have nothing to go on. Like you do and you don't, But when you're just in the midst, like, I don't want to be in the wrong, but maybe I just all of a sudden react, bah, 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 and like some people say they black out and they win the fight. I don't know. It's kind of like you're letting what we call God make the decision for that person, because it's not my job to punish them. And so if they get hurt by attacking me, it's their own damn fault, for one thing, so I'm just going to react, like maybe bring that elbow up, and if they walk right into my elbow, I brought my elbow up to block their strike, they walk into it, whatever, if they get into my reach, then they're mine. So this is what we need to have to be a martial artist in a good way, is that synapses with the universe, synapses to give us a way to make the best choice. So that way I'm not evil, and I'm not just, punishing, I'm not just enjoying bringing harm. And so the physical level, spirit survival affects physical survival, because think of how a person can actually die of heartbreak. They don't even need to commit suicide. Some people die of grief, some people die of heartbreak. Especially when they have a weakness, it's like if somebody got really sick or injured badly enough. It probably doesn't happen very often when somebody has super excellent health, but a person can simply die because something broke their spirit badly enough. And so that's why we need to understand the spiritual survival, because in my life I rarely ever get to use my kung fu and see how good I am. And I am proud to say I've never really hurt anyone in my life. I've never had a chance to really just beat someone up, but I've definitely got a couple colorful stories about where I did use my kung fu and that it did work. But anyways, the spiritual survival is something I need to work on, because I do have a lot of things that challenge me. And I want to discuss, just sort of like, here's the kind of person I am, the kind of karma I have, because that's going to help you, like, if you're going to watch my videos, understand who you're talking to. If I'm going to talk about my martial arts or anything else, I don't know, I just have a weird life where I'm being made to learn how to fight. So I've had to learn kung fu, and now it's getting to where now we've got to learn spiritual survival, because I keep coming under attack by what we call these narcissists everywhere I go. Anyone that's an open vessel to the dark side. So I need my friend to be stronger people. I can't afford to be around an open vessel. It's going to be open to the calling of the void and then attack me for no reason. So that's what spiritual survival is about. So today I feel very spirited, ready to fight. And I'm letting you know it right now. If you want to be in my life, I get your support by you not being a weak ass punk. Alright, you guys have a fun day. I'll talk to you soon.